The substance will either traumatize you or make you feel very confused for 135 minutes. I'm a different person after seeing this film, and if I don't talk about it, I might explode like a monstrous version of myself. So if this is your first time here, hello, I am Hannah or Angrily Uwoos. I like to make video essays about random games and films that live rent-free in my brain. Now let's explore the substance. Like and subscribe. We're introduced to a Hollywood star, Elizabeth Sparkle, which I think is a really good way to show how a celebrity goes from being loved and valued to people completely forgetting about them over time, as they fade away and crack under everybody. We then have the whole 80s workout routine, which I think is really interesting for two reasons. Reason one being the fact that our main character Elizabeth can somehow just have her hair down whilst exercising, which is insane to me. And two, Elizabeth is both complimenting and insulting the audience to make them continue the workout. I do find it interesting how she asks if you want to look like a giant jellyfish on the beach, because of course there's nothing worse than being fat, right? Elizabeth needs to go to the bathroom after doing her lovely workout routine. The women's bathroom is out of order, so it's time to sneak into the men's bathroom. Whilst hiding and peeing, you know, multitasking is fun. One of the most vile and vulgar characters I have ever seen in any film shows up. And I just have to say the framing is amazing. In every scene with this character, he's called Harvey by the way, he is easily the most wretched creature of all time. Dennis Quaid did a phenomenal job here. I've never been more disgusted by a character on screen before. Harvey is actually on the phone to, I'm assuming, a producer for the show, and he speaks about Elizabeth as if she's a Cronenberg creature, and they want to cast somebody else for the show, and the line drops about women's fertility decreasing after the age of 25. Yeah, this character must love Andrew Tate. I gotta say, the sound design in this film is absolutely insane. Watching Harvey eating food is pretty vile. The way that he just leaves a mess everywhere as if it's a war zone. Honestly, I feel really bad for the poor staff that have to clean that place up because it is disgusting. But the sound design of him like eating everything with his mouth open is so vile. And the framing of the camera too. It really sells how just disgusting he is as a character, even just through the simple thing of just eating. But anyways, that's not actually the point here. Harvey fully talks down to Elizabeth. Renewal is inevitable, and at 50, it stops. Basically, once you're a woman and hit 50, don't bother being a public figure, because you're not attractive enough to the masses. Now, I'm not exactly over the age of 50, but as somebody who's not considered conventionally attractive, this film really just reeled me in hook, line, and sinker with little scenes like this. On her way home, Elizabeth watches Billboard with her face being ripped down, which again just shows the whole, you know, you get to a certain age, people no longer care, but I also think it works really well because it makes us, the audience, and Elizabeth just fully stare at this before getting smacked in the face by a car. Somehow, Elizabeth gets out of this without a scratch, and the doctor looks through her notes and he's just like, oh, by the way, my wife, she's such a huge fan of yours. Oh, happy birthday! Because yes, all of this has happened on her birthday. The doctor has to go with his pager, and then the overly attractive Leonardo DiCaprio kind of looking actor just has to examine her, and he has one of the most ominous lines.
It's perfect. You're a good candidate.
Elizabeth leaves and finds that there's a USB stick in her coat with a note attached saying, "It changed my life." Now, you know what else might change your life? Hitting that subscribe button, since, you know, you'll see more of me and, you know, maybe like my video as well, because it really helps to spread around my content. Yeah, that was a smooth segue. Anyways, back to Elizabeth. She spots someone from high school, Fred, who is somewhat in awe over her with, you know, her being a celebrity, and mentions how she's always the most beautiful girl in the whole wide world, which is lovely. You can tell that this guy is really genuine. He's a bit socially awkward, but it's so endearing the way that it's done. He's just a little guy. He's just a little guy. So he writes his number on a piece of paper and drops it in a puddle. My boy, Fred, just rip off another sheet of paper. Why give her the gross, muddy, soggy piece of paper? My boy. What? We see some roses with a note. Thank you for all these years with us. You were amazing. Which, yeah, is nice, but, you know, again, there's the whole emphasis. And we're showing most subtly that, you know, Elizabeth is past her prime. Let's learn about the substance. And if I can use the music in here, oh, I will be spamming it everywhere. I'm low-key obsessed with it. It's such a banger, honestly. So anyways, yeah, that's not the point, though. In the terms of this film, you are the Matrix. And then you can use the substance to create a better version of yourself. But be sure to remember, you are one, and you have to switch every 7 days. You know, a fairly relatable reaction from Elizabeth, to be fair, because why is bro playing with Play-Doh? We get a scene of showing all the awards that she's won over the years, and this beautiful snow globe, which clearly reminds her of these more popular days. And then she decides to smack it straight into that poster of herself. She has amazing aim, by the way. Like, honestly, this is on point. But also, this is where we have some ties to Dorian Gray, which if you haven't seen or read, I would highly recommend. Now, thinking more about the substance, she fishes the USB out of the bin and contacts them, which like leads us to this really sketchy location, and it's really weird and creepy. And it's like, bro, this looks like a place where you're going to, you know, end up in a barrel of acid. Not quite with us anymore, if you know what I'm saying. So she goes to this really random sketchy location and has to crawl under the metal gate just to be able to access the building. I feel like Beau from Beau's Afraid would live in this area. It's that derelict. At least that's the vibe it's giving off. After having opened up the substance package, we see Elizabeth standing without clothing in the bathroom, sort of amping herself up to take it, because, you know, if you're completely naked, you can see all of your imperfections. Of course, she takes the substance, because otherwise we would not be here right now. Also, I just have to say, the activator serum looks like Dutch apple squash. It looks like it kind of belongs in Full Up, but it tastes so good. In much shorter and significantly less graphic terms, Elizabeth waits for the activator to work, and then it hits her like a train, so she kind of just lands face first on the floor in immeasurable pain as her better self suddenly begins to grow inside of her body and pops out of her back like a reverse alien. Also, the way that it's framed of seeing this shot of like the other version of Elizabeth climbing out of her back was kind of insane. I thought it looked really cool. Time for me to introduce you to Sue. This is also where we begin to get some emphasis on Sue's body. She does look more conventionally attractive, such as her bum being more round and her personalities being a bit more perky. And of course, the first thing she needs to do, other than vomit up the Dutch apple squash, is to surf Elizabeth's back, since, you know, she literally climbed out of her back not even 2 minutes ago. This is where the film's probably going to get a little bit confusing to explain. Sue and Elizabeth are the exact same person. I can't stress that enough. They are literally the same person. However, she's just transferring her consciousness in and out of each body, so they do begin to act a bit differently, hence the emphasis on them being the same. So bear that in mind for the rest of the video, because I will be using Sue and Elizabeth as different people, but they are the same person nonetheless. With the substance, you get a week in each body. You have to respect the balance in order for each body to still be completely fine. They get drip fed this food matrix thing that essentially is like a Capri Sun, but full of fat. For the other self to function, you need to stabilize every day using spinal fluid from the matrix itself. So Sue takes out some lovely spine flavored water and stabs it into her thigh, otherwise, you know, the game over would happen. This is also where we start to get one of our first mirrored themes to reality. If anybody remembers that whole thing of Ozempic and the other weight loss injections, you can actually use them on your thigh. So there is a bit of a mirror between that and sort of a link to reality on that one. This isn't in my script, by the way. I meant to include this, so if I sound a bit rambly, that's why. On the day Elizabeth grabbed the substance, she read about the studio she was working for wanting to cast a vivacious and young girl between 21 and 30, and now of course she has the chance to throw her hat into the ring and finds the perfect pink bodysuit to audition. Also, she finds this in a newspaper. This film has an almost timeless feel to it because they have, you know, flat screen TVs, they have phones, but you still get jobs in the newspaper and stuff. It's kind of interesting. I sort of like the vibe, honestly. We see the producers interviewing people, and one of them has to come out with the lovely line, "Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose." So of course, next in, and well, they absolutely love her to quote, "Looks like everything sure is in the right place this time," which is very fitting since, you know, Sue is literally a recreation of Elizabeth, but with everything in the right place. Haha, you know, the substance, woo, sort of like their selling point. It's just kind of a wild thing. By the way, I just sort of need to add real quick that people 110% do the exact same stuff with male actors, and it does impact men and boys. For example, I found an article back in 2016 saying 20% of boys in high school would change their diet to look better, and over half would struggle talking to their school, and 1/3 would actually struggle talking to their parents about this. Of course, this is back in 2016, but it's actually really hard to find articles that are more recent about this. It is genuinely a really big issue that needs more light on it. Fortunately, this film only frames it from a woman's perspective, so that's all I can really talk about within this film. I genuinely really hope that there is a film very similar to this that comes out, but from a male perspective. perspective at some point. This is absolutely disgusting. This should not be a thing. I don't understand why we're almost fetishizing a beauty standard that is impossible to even consider having for more than a couple of days, because otherwise you will die. So I just found this was really important to include, because whenever I complain about body image issues throughout this film for women, it's not just for women. No one is able to escape this issue, but for the framing of this film, again, it's from a woman's perspective. So I really just had to highlight this issue, because honestly, it's not spoken about enough. Right, here's my fun little editor note here, because honestly, talking about body image in general is just a very difficult topic for me personally, as somebody who's struggled with it for all these years. Of course, I don't really know what it's like to be a man struggling with body image, and I probably never will, but what I will say is that a lot of these issues that women are also having, such as these extremely unrealistic beauty standards, but in the case of men for the most part, it seems to be bulking up as much as possible, drinking 4 gallons of water, and then not drinking anything for 36 hours and seeing what happens. Oh look, you can create some amazing looking pictures and then get hospitalized. It's not safe, it's not good, it's absolutely disgusting. We should not be glorifying it. We should not be looking at this and going, oh wow, Wolverine, you're so attractive, when that almost killed Hugh Jackman in reality. He might joke about it in interviews, but realistically, what if he actually had, well, all F4'd from life in that moment, all because of one scene where he was dehydrating? They say beauty is pain, but in the case of Hollywood, it feels more like your body image is deadly. Harvey, of course, belittles his assistant. Her name is Elizabella, and of course he decides that that name is too long, so her name is now Cindy. Again, anybody who Harvey doesn't seem as valuable, he throws away. Also, he literally says Cindy is a name that's shorter and better. Again, showing that you need to be better than whatever you are, because you are not good enough. Wow, this film's really hitting home. Anyone else feel that way? Moving on from my issues, we have this nice montage of Sue having a photo shoot and essentially starting her career up once again under the spotlight, which is where we start to see this billboard in front of the apartment of Sue as a constant reminder of how she looks and how the film seems to portray how better Sue should always strive to look. It's almost more like a looming presence over all the characters now, a reminder of what she needs to be like and how women should strive to look like. Anyways, time to switch back to Elizabeth. Going back to the studio, we get to see more of Harvey. Yay. And she got a nice little going away gift from his wife. How does this man have a wife and yet you probably can't even get a text back? Or is he just on about his blow-up doll? Maybe his right hand? Elizabeth then spends her week picking up the refill kit and watching TV, with a break in between to see how much longer she needs to wait before she can become Sue again. She has literally nothing else to live for now. As Sue now was judging Elizabeth for sitting and watching TV all week, doing literally nothing, but hey, at least the back scars are healing up, right? Having a body laying there isn't really the best idea. So time to break down the wall with a fun little DIY project for the girlies. I think I saw this one on Pinterest. Time to gate-light gas-keeping girl boss. Oh my god, bestie. Just a little secretive room in my penthouse in the bathroom for my body. Oh my god, it's so quirky and relatable. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. Literally day and night Sue is working on this, and her lovely neighbor, Oliver, aka Negative Riz Man, is very angrily knocking on her door from all the noise, but the second Sue comes out, he literally melts. I just love how Sue closes the door on him. The way Sue and Elizabeth drag each other's bodies around is kind of insane. I feel like it's a subtle hint of like how we sort of don't value our bodies, so it is sort of like we are just kind of dragging ourselves through it, but maybe I'm just reading too far into this. Also, why would you not add a light or something like that into your weird secret dungeon room? We get to see the first recording of Sue, and I just have to point out how different the dancing, clothing, and even makeup is. It's very clearly going from 80s dance moves to, shall we say, more modern dance moves. I can't show this. Due to all the excitement, Sue realizes that, you know, she's going to be a couple hours late, so she asks Elizabeth not to eat too fast. Anyway, in a scene that's too spicy for YouTube, Elizabeth finishes her food. This is just me drinking a Capri Sun, to be fair. Anyway, Sue has a lovely nosebleed. Time to steal some back sauce, because even though you need to switch every week without exception, being Sue was just too much fun and it's just another night. What harm could that do, right? Back to Elizabeth now. She sees the flat is completely trashed. I would say this is where the resentment begins from her end towards Sue, especially since she's just discovered what harm an extra night would cause. Not gonna lie, the entire makeup and costume department absolutely nailed it, because their work only gets better from here, and Elizabeth's finger is sure is fingering. Wait, no, not like that. So Elizabeth calls up the substance support team, who aren't exactly as welcoming as you'd hope. Elizabeth says there's been a slight misuse, and the man says, bro, that's a bit of a skill issue. Learn how to respect the balance or it'll just get worse. Oh, and PS, you can't control Z your fingy. Elizabeth begins to see herself separate from Sue. She begins to refer to Sue as another person, and I would say it goes the other way as well now. Elizabeth cleans up the flat because she has 7 days to be herself, which, as we all know, she's going to be very bored and lonely that whole time. But hey, at least she can watch Sue on the show for the first time. Again, I can't show much. Surprisingly, the show wants to hammer home beauty standards, so it does a lot of camera work with specific body parts. The show ends, and we get a knock at the door from Discord mod Oliver. He comes around shouting for Sue because he needs his newest Discord kitten, and also adds that he saw the show and asks if she would do a private lesson with just him. Ew. And then basically he says he wants to go on a date with her at 7, even though she doesn't reply at all. But he's like, yep, it's a date. This is a thing. You don't get a choice. Like, yes, I do, Oliver. Nobody's going out with you. You are disgusting. Please leave. Time to pick up the refill kit since they need more food bags. And I can't help but notice Elizabeth is almost trying to cover herself more and more with her coat. So it's a quick pop to the substance shop, but then she starts to get this feeling that she's being followed. So let's go into this coffee shop, right? Should be fine, right? Just a quick callback. Remember the guy who looked kind of similar to Leonardo DiCaprio? This is him the other 7 days. He just wanted to see how Elizabeth is doing, and also mentions how 7 days feels like such a long time, and this part of yourself is worth something. But before Elizabeth can leave after freaking out, he asks,
has she started yet? Eating away at you?
The way the actor said it, it's so menacing and disgusting and creepy and horrifying. It's really well done. I should also mention really quickly that all of the actors did an insane job here. Every single performance in this film is absolutely incredible. Elizabeth makes her way home and goes through all of her old stuff, which Sue has politely stacked into the bottom of the wardrobe, but she's able to find Fred's number, and she thinks back to how he said that she's still the most beautiful girl in the whole world. So they go on a lovely date. Elizabeth cancels her subscription to the substance, and they live happily ever after. Is what I would love to say, but this film only wants to hit you in the gut every chance it gets. So of course, nothing good can ever last in this film. They arrange to go on a date at 8. Fred is very endearing. I would say he does seem a bit clumsy, as I mentioned, like with his words, his mannerisms. He's very socially awkward, but he's such a little guy. He's just a little guy trying to get on a date. Just a little guy. This is also the only part of the film where Elizabeth seems genuinely happy, but I also can't tell if this is because she's going to get validation from her appearance because Fred still considers her to be so beautiful, or if she would actually like to go on a date with him. I'd assume the former because she didn't seem all that interested until now. The next scene we'll be looking at is easily the hardest to watch in my opinion. It has no gore or spooky stuff, it is just pure acting. Elizabeth is getting ready for her date. It's 7:30 and she has this lovely red dress and is going over her makeup, but she notices Sue wants to have the same lip gloss, so she redoes her makeup again, but time is still ticking away. She's ready to leave, but notices the billboard of Sue, almost taunting her with its two ample personalities. Back in the bathroom, Elizabeth uses a scarf to sort of hide her personalities and take off the gloss makeup. After all, that's just not her, and she probably feels a bit silly for it. The clock is still moving though, and Elizabeth now has only just finished her makeup again. Elizabeth gets all the way to the door this time though, but she can still feel the pressure of Sue taunting at her. Why can't she look that way, right? And then she notices herself in the reflection of the doorknob. The pure anger and frustration is fully written across Demi Moore's face. This scene is perfect. Elizabeth starts to smudge her makeup and then slowly ends up becoming more and more furious as she sort of wipes it across her face more and more, ripping off her fake eyelashes, messing up her hair completely. We skip ahead and see Elizabeth in the bedroom in a robe with wet hair. And on her phone, Fred is waiting for her. And I just feel bad for him because he's like, oh, a big star like you probably wants to make a big entrance with being late, and asks if she's doing okay because, well, she's not shown up. Fred is probably the most genuine character in this whole film, and I also think that this scene is probably probably one of the most important throughout the film, but I will explain more about that in my thoughts section. I should really mention this is where the food related part really starts to kick in. We see Elizabeth gorging herself on all of this food, a whole chicken, potato waffles, quiche, and presumably more. We cut to Sue filming another video, and during the routine, what I can only really describe as an adipose creature from Doctor Who tried to get through one of her bum cheeks. Clearly becoming very self-conscious, she screams for her robe and runs to the bathroom. She's able to move this weird mass, pushing the intrusion through her belly button. We're able to see it's a chicken leg, like one Elizabeth presumably ate earlier. I really just have to say, the fact that she's doing it in the bathroom and how it comes out of her stomach, it really just feels like a metaphor for some sort of eating disturbance, shall we say. Sadly, I can't really go much more into that without YouTube potentially smiting me down, but this is just a nightmare sequence. We've had more throughout the film, but I didn't feel like they were really all that relevant, other than, whoa, this is proper creepy. But it's not real, thankfully. This is where we switch from Elizabeth to Sue. So Sue sees the entire mess of everything. Elizabeth has just eaten everything, and it's just left there, sat in front of the TV, where she spent the last week just sat there eating. Sue is very angrily shouting at customer service about how the balance isn't working. She barely has any time to enjoy herself, whilst she wastes 7 days stuffing her face in front of the TV. Sue shows up to the studio. It's completely deserted. Turns out they don't want to air the morning show anymore because the ratings are too good. So Sue's being moved to a more popular time slot, and this is where she's given the news that she gets to do the New Year's episode, which would be in front of 2 million people. That's insane. That's even better than her career beforehand as Elizabeth Sparkle. That's incredible. Back in the weird bathroom cave. Yeah, I'm calling it a cave. It's no longer even a room. Doesn't have electricity or lighting. It's a cave. Sue takes more spine juice and tells Elizabeth, "You need to open the door when opportunity knocks," and she of all people should know this, which is where we seem to have hit the Elizabeth having to reason to herself why she needs to keep damaging her body through using the substance. Oh, I wonder if there's another allegory here that I can't mention lest I be thrown into the pits by YouTube. I'll give you a hint though. It rhymes with pugs. Anyway, we have a montage of Sue walking in and out constantly because of all these opportunities, like being the cover of Vogue magazine, and she seems genuinely excited when telling Elizabeth will always reassure her it's just for another day, and not to mention Elizabeth's back is getting a bit gross. Again, I can't show you any of this because YouTube. Time to switch back for the first time in presumably a couple of weeks. Elizabeth's body has greatly aged. Her hair is falling out, and the right side of her body has gone all wrinkled. Again, complaining to the customer support guy, they offer to stop the experience. She can go back to just being herself, alone. Just her. But again, nothing can be undone regarding her appearance. This is where the spitefulness really starts to boil over. Elizabeth, struggling to get out of her chair, finds that one present from her boss's wife. Seriously, how the f did he have a wife? Anyways, it's a French cookbook, and just a quick thing to any French people potentially watching. The next scene is a crime against food. I'm so sorry for what they've done to your entire cuisine in this film. It is horrendous. Skip it or you can be traumatized like me. This whole scene is Elizabeth slowly becoming more and more enraged over Sue, from mimicking and mocking her mannerisms to shaming the way she looks, all while making every recipe in this book. And at the same time, she is making an enormous mess. There is food everywhere. She's dropping all of the rubbish she's throwing. I feel bad for the cleaners. Oh, also, to be fair on Elizabeth though, Sue does call Elizabeth old. Like, Jurassic, kind of an oof moment. Did you know that you can smash eggs against the wall and then throw a newspaper over the top to block the outside world? Damn, these 5-minute crafts are getting out of hand. Also, I can't imagine the smell of this. It would be disgusting. We switch back and Sue is livid. She literally screams at Elizabeth to control herself. But the irony is, both of them need to control themselves, or they wouldn't be in this sort of situation. Sue keeps stealing time from Elizabeth, and Elizabeth keeps becoming more and more vengeful by completely trashing anything that is in her control to get back at Sue. Point is, the entire flat is completely trashed. Sue finds any and all glass containers and dumps them in the same room with Elizabeth, and uses the activator needle to drain literally everything from Elizabeth, whilst calling her gross, old, fat, and disgusting. The way Sue treats Elizabeth now is wild, literally kicking her over on her back out of frustration and disdain. We can assume some time has passed and we cut to Sue staring at her billboard showing a promo of herself for the New Year's show, mirroring the roses Elizabeth received at the very start when she was fired, with a note saying, "We all loved you," past tense. We now get a new note saying they are going to love you. Sue has crafted this perfect persona which everyone will love, since after all, she knew exactly what they wanted from being Elizabeth. She can just keep giving them more of that, right? Sue also has this lovely partner now, so she really has all the validation she could literally ask for. The door unveils a mountain of food packs as Sue grabs her next helping. After all, the show is tomorrow, she needs to look her best, but instead of clear spine juice, it's this weird oily congealed paste. Back to the helpline and they say, bro, it's just a skill issue, you just gotta switch back and then the spine juice will come back in. Considering we saw the calendar when Elizabeth first began taking the substance all the way back in May, a few weeks went by, so we could assume maybe June, July time was the last time we actually saw Elizabeth. So her appearance has massively changed, to say the least. Elizabeth makes Sue's partner leave, and this is when we get to finally see this whole view of her. Elizabeth is balding, a fully arched spine, her skin has some interesting colours that consist of purple, red, and her original skin colour. The damage Sue has really taken here is pretty apparent, and I really just need to point out how incredible the prosthetics in this film are. But obviously this entire outfit, if you will, that Demi Moore is wearing just looks insane. It's incredible. Elizabeth finally screams at the support team that she wants to stop. She wants to stop this entire thing. She drags the poster back into its rightful place and time to grab her last kit, the termination kit. And of course Oliver pops out and we get this perfect line. It is hands down the best line of the entire film.
Sue, I was... Back off!
Also, I just love this guy's reaction. The way he's just absolutely dumbfounded by her is just so funny to me. Elizabeth drags her around as if she's a doll and finally uses the termination needle. But if she doesn't have Sue, then no one will love her, right? She can't be alone. So I guess it's time to try and use the switch needle and just hope that it works. And it kind of does, but instead of the consciousness going between each body, it splits into two. So both Sue and Elizabeth are now lucid. I also kind of love how they both mirror each other as they first get up and see each other for the first time, but obviously in their own bodies. Unfortunately though, Sue's anger is fully ignited from seeing the termination needle, which is where we get an extremely brutal scene, which, you know, I can't show again. Soon Elizabeth massively fights until Elizabeth is no longer able to get up, if you know what I'm going for there. I really do wish that I could show you parts of this scene, because one of the themes throughout this film is the mirror, but I'll mention that in a little bit. And it's just the way that Sue and Elizabeth are fighting, and Elizabeth's not even trying to fight back, not really. She's just trying to defend herself and run away. But Sue is so angry and so tormented by her being there that she just sort of forces Elizabeth just to sort of confront how she looks and how Sue looks in the mirror now. It's just a really cool scene, honestly. Also, Sue completely fully kicks into Elizabeth even when she's down. Like, she's clearly out for the count, but she's still laying into her. It's like this insane blind rage. And it's completely irrational, which is why she regrets it because, well, without the Matrix, the other self will cease to function. We see everyone getting ready for the event, and Sue's dress is beautiful, her makeup is immaculate, but she can't stop coughing. She runs awkwardly into the bathroom because this dress is enormous. Finally, something comes out. It's a tooth. She literally coughed a tooth out of her gums, and then she proceeds to pull some more out. 9 out of 10 dentists would not recommend doing this. Need I say more? At this point, it's pretty clear that we're past the point of return. Sue has decided, well, you know what, let's just use the activator again, right? Again, without the Matrix, this is just gonna get worse. And if she uses the Matrix on herself, she'll only become more perfect, right? By the way, I've been writing this script for a while, so forgive me for forgetting names. So Mr. Gross Bossman introduces Sue to the shareholders and...
Is everything okay? So smile! Pretty girls should always smile!
I love how cartoony the shareholders are. I swear they just rounded up a group of old white men who look very similar. Sue just fully runs back to her flat at this point. Her nails are popping off in the elevator down and her ear literally falls off. She really is falling to pieces. But hey, we make it home just in time to use the activator serum, which does stress it is single use only. But Sue is begging for a better version of herself. Better in what way is sort of the real question here. So of course she uses the activator serum, and well, the results are about as great as you'd expect for this film. Welcome to Act 3, everybody. Have a look around. Anything that brain of yours can think of can be found. We've got mountains of ice, some body parts here. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing either. I should now introduce you to Monstro Elizasu. I can't exactly show much of the transformation scene, but I can show you the eye shot, which I'm low-key obsessed with, and I honestly just want a poster of this. I don't know what it is. This picture, just this singular screenshot, it's perfection. It is nightmare incarnate for me. I don't like when eyes are being messed about, but this is cool and creepy. Give me more of this. Wait, what was it even in my script? It's all just one giant mass of flesh and body parts, complete with the weird dangling bits. Monstro looks at the billboard, and since, you know, she needs to be there for the New Year's show, they're all going to love her. So somehow she finds a way to put on Sue's dress, puts the earrings on where ears probably should have been. And I also just love how she tries to use this curling wand, but it just singes her hair because it's so brittle and dead. The finishing touch is Elizabeth's poster as a mask, and then we hear,
Pretty girls should always smile!
Monstro makes her way to the studio, and somehow people don't seem to notice, or maybe they're just too rushed to pay enough attention, or pay too little to care. In the infamous shining corridor, she walks past everyone feeding her compliments. You're so beautiful! We love you! This is where you belong, and this is where you'll always belong. All while applauding her, but it's not real. She's alone. Waiting for the show, Shrimp Man then starts to talk about how she is my most beautiful creation. I shaped her for success, fully just taking on the fact that he is the reason for her success, which is just gross, but he is completely correct that, you know, he did shape her this way. His views on women and his wants for the show have made her look and behave exactly how he wanted, or else they'll just be fired and replaced, just like how Sue replaced Elizabeth. This is exactly what he created. For some odd reason, all of the women that are performing in the show, other than Elizabeth, or Monstro if you will, are almost completely nude. Their outfits are highly accentuating their personalities and their features. The lights dim, the live broadcast sign begins. Time for Monstro to join everyone on stage. I also just love how the professional dancers are looking around each other without breaking a smile, or the show whilst being clearly disturbed and confused by Monstro. Monstro mentions how happy she is to be here with everyone, and just says that she's missed everyone so much. And that's when the mask falls and everyone can see her for what she is. And if things couldn't get any more worse, she begins coughing, which pushes out another breast from one of her face holes. Yeah, that's a sentence and a scene that happened. What's the number for my therapist again? Oh, right, that's right. I don't have one. I'm too poor for that. So, it hits the fan. Everyone starts screaming after the horror in which they have just seen as finally sets in. The security guards don't particularly care that she insists she's still Sue and Elizabeth, so she gets pushed between two of these blokes before one of them picks up the microphone stand and fully goes for a home run. And of course, I can't show you this scene on YouTube, so just imagine any exploding zombie in any horde game, and that's basically how her head disappeared from her shoulders and completely covered this man in ketchup. Very cool. A new head grows out of where the other hole was, but there's no matrix to stabilize her, so her wrist breaks off and just begins spraying everyone. This whole scene feels very Carrie, from how the film is shot to how all the characters are completely covered in blood trying to escape, but completely unable to. We get a nice callback to the producers. Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose. Be careful what you wish for, I guess. But it's time to leave. We see Monstro walking down the corridor. Very reminiscent of The Shining with all the blood, just everywhere. It's fully dripping down the walls. Still running away, her body breaks down more. On the back of her body though was Elizabeth's face. The whole body now being split into multiple pieces though, she's able to sort of drag the skin surrounding her just so she can keep moving. She has to keep moving. And then finally she reaches her Hollywood star. She smiles in her last moments, thinking how everyone loved her the last time she was here. All the applause, all of the people being so happy and completely in awe of her, before finally the light fades, and so does she. A pavement sweeper goes on by, and we move on as if nothing happened. So I walked out of the cinema in full shock with my friend laughing at me, since she had spent the last act pretty much giggling. Well, trying not to giggle in the cinema, you know, being polite. Meanwhile, I was just fully traumatized, and this is the reason why I need to talk about this film, because honestly, if I don't, my head will explode like Elizabeth's did. Well, Monstro's did. This film is a lot to take in, and to be quite honest, I don't think I'm going to really be able to cover the topic fully. I'm going to try my best, but again, there is so much going on here. It was really hard trying to get a nice order to this script. In the first scene, we see Harvey. He's peeing into a urinal that is right under the camera, but it's almost as if he's peeing on the audience. It really shows how offensive he is. Maybe I'm just going too far into it, you know, with like the whole of mice and men sort of brain analysing this, but I do feel like I'm onto something. He is just so disrespectful to everyone and everything, potentially even the audience themselves, that I feel like this has to be intentional. Mirror shots throughout the entire film really seem to show how Elizabeth views herself. From the very first bathroom scene that we see of her after Harvey's done with the urinal, we see her sort of questioning how she really sort of looks, like maybe has she actually gotten old? And then before she's considering using, you know, the substance for the first time, and then we have Sue when she first wakes up and finally sees herself in front of the mirror, and then, well, at the very end where Sue and Elizabeth both see themselves in the mirror. And of course with Monstro. I just think it's really interesting. You can tell a lot from a person with how they sort of look at themselves in a mirror in this film. Maybe that translates to real life, take that as you will though, I guess. But I thought that was very clever. Throughout this film, there's been shots of eggs, and emphasizing them throughout the film. From the very start with the substance, to them cooking in the pan, to being separate, to Elizabeth now violently whisking all of them, and then finally throwing them against the window. It's very much foreshadowing of the different phases of the Matrix, the other you, and I just thought that was really cool. I really liked it, honestly. It was pretty cool. Elizabeth's keycard is 503, which, according to one of my friends, is an angel number, so I did a little bit more digging and they're correct, yeah. And apparently it can mean a powerful message of transformation, spiritual growth, and creativity. But another site said, it's a reminder that you have freedom to explore your potential and make the changes necessary for career success. Both of these work so well within the context of this film, and it really just shows how much work was put into this. It's absolutely incredible. The more I watch this, the more Easter eggs that I seem to find. There's so much detail. It's just incredible, honestly. I love being able to see a work of art, whether that be a game, a film, or even an actual art piece that just has so much detail to it. It's lovely, it's wonderful, and it feels very refreshing, honestly, especially within the horror genre. Since I walked out the cinema, I've been obsessed with this film. I'm kind of hoping that the substance merch won't have actually sold out before my next payday comes through, because, well, this film has meant so much to me that I just really want something to hold on to it with. The reason why I feel like I'm so hooked, though, is fairly apparent, and I think a lot of people with similar perspective or maybe positions in life as me feel the same way. So as somebody who has always longed to look conventionally attractive, I found even halfway into the film I would still take the substance if it were real. Especially since a few weeks back I was told I need glasses, and for the first few weeks I wore them. Every time I looked in the mirror, I kept seeing Harry Potter or my dad staring back, which was not exactly the vibe. But back to the point, we see Elizabeth in this scene tearing herself apart just over her looks. The entire time I was watching this, I just wanted to climb through the screen and give her a hug and just tell her how pretty she genuinely is. And these thoughts are just how we've all been conditioned over the years to really sort of feel about ourselves, and how she just genuinely doesn't need to be jealous of how she could look. And then I realized how much of a hypocrite I am. The amount of times I have done this year is countless, let alone over my lifetime. The amount of times I've had this situation whenever I've gotten ready to record videos, get ready for streams, TikToks, going out for dates, hanging out with friends, or even just wanting to look pretty. I've had this exact same issue happen, and I feel like almost everybody has. I've had this exact thing happen, down to being ready to go and seeing my reflection in something, literally anything, and suddenly it ruins it, and I can't go out now. The scene hit me and one of my friends so hard that when I actually asked them what the most disturbing part of the film was, they said the date breakdown scene. This film really is about self-acceptance, and hopefully one day, and hopefully everybody who's watching this, if you do feel the same way as me, will get to this level where, you know what, we can accept ourselves for how we are. We are enough. We are our best selves. But currently, I'm personally no better than Elizabeth or the nurse. We all have good days and we all have bad days. But as long as one day we're able to actually get to that point of real self-acceptance, I think that's really the best thing to strive for. Not trying to look a certain way, just accepting that, yeah, this is me. And I'm happy about that. Either way though, I think you'll generally have a lot of fun if you've not already seen this. And also, if you've not already seen this, why are you watching this video? You've just spoiled the whole film for yourself. Throughout the film, our main character wears a bright yellow coat with long black hair. She's literally a walking caution sign. Until she comes Monstro. Or maybe she just really likes the B-movie. I just thought that these colours was very interesting because it's highly emphasized throughout the film. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this. I feel a little bit like that one conspiracy guy. There's just so much going on in this film. Am I potentially grasping at straws? Maybe. Hear me out. When I say that this film is the Of Mice and Men of horror films, the director and the stylist chose certain clothing and colour to sort of represent feelings, emotions, and themes, and if it weren't for the gore, nudity, and overall nature, I guess, I think studying this would be a brilliant topic for schools to explore about how people feel about themselves, which going all the way back to the very start of my script pretty much, when I mentioned men and boys having these issues, maybe it would help share a light and help people speak up more about how they feel about themselves. I feel like this is something that we really sort of need to teach ourselves and our future generations going on. Like, we shouldn't need to try and strive this one way for this perfect beauty standard, because it's not real. What you have when you look in the mirror, that's real, and that's what you should find beautiful. I feel like I've sort of hammered it home, but again, this film is just about self-acceptance. Yes, there's a lot of lingering shots about certain things here and there. Yes, there's a lot of horror, but deep down, the meaning behind this is lovely, and I think it's greatly important, which is why the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is a question that I asked my friend Robin. If the substance were real and you had the choice to, would you take it? And she said no. I'm the best version of myself day by day, my views change, experiences are made, and without these things, I would be the worst version of myself. And that, everybody, is the substance. Thank you so much for making it to the very end. If you enjoyed this content, please consider watching another one, since that would really help supporting my channel and appease the YouTube messiah. I mean the algorithm. I'm not the weird one, it's just an algorithm. Tell me in the comments what you think to this film. In the meantime though, please like this video and subscribe, all those lovely things. Take care, and maybe I'll see you in the next one. Bye.